Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. I'm Errol Lewis. Less than 2 months after angrily denouncing Andrew Cuomo, Mayor Eric Adams is now endorsing the former governor in the race for mayor. The mayor says he has to back Cuomo in order to stop the Democratic nominee, Zohran Mamdani, from becoming mayor. Our Dan Rivley joins me now with tonight's top story. Good evening, Dan.
Hey, good evening, Errol. So in a battle with the man he called a snake, Andrew Cuomo, versus Zohran Mamdani, the snake oil salesman to Adams, Adams, of course, went with the man he called the snake, Andrew Cuomo. He made this announcement to endorse Cuomo outside of Carver Houses, a public housing development in East Harlem. And he said that this is a battle for longtime New Yorkers to stop Zohran Mamdani from becoming mayor and implementing socialist policies.
Andrew Cuomo is a snake and a liar.
Mayor Eric Adams may have called Andrew Cuomo a snake. But Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani?
We're fighting against a snake oil salesman.
He's a snake oil salesman to Adams. Adams characterized the campaign as longtime New Yorkers against the transplants and gentrifiers who overwhelmingly voted for Mamdani in the Democratic primary.
Who's his base of support? Gentrifiers. Gentrifiers have raised the rent in the city and disrespected communities for far too long, and he's the king of the gentrifiers.
To Cuomo, the former Democratic governor running as an independent.
This is a democratic city with a democratic tradition. And Zohran is not a Democrat. Democratic socialist is a different thing.
It's about Democratic brand loyalty. The endorsement outside of Carver Houses in East Harlem drew a crowd eager to hear from the mayor and former governor. Several of them were big fans of the mayor, some who told New York One they'd vote for Cuomo or at least consider it. To Cuomo's opponents, it was just one failed corrupt politician endorsing another.
Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo are two illustrations of the same broken politics. And today will be an illustration for New Yorkers of the fact that Eric Adams' record is Andrew Cuomo's agenda.
The guy who called Andrew Cuomo a snake is now the snake charmer. Are you surprised by that?
And that snake remark? Just like a couple of brothers feuding.
When families are attacked, brothers come together. They understand that you have to protect the family. And immigrant families are under attack in the city. Working class people are under attack.
And the mayor put his own personal ambition and ego aside to make sure he's doing everything he can to make sure that New York remains New York. And I applaud him for that, and I have great respect for that. And the mayor is exactly right.
This is a good mayor.
Now, Mayor Adams did say he was angry it would not be him taking on Zohran Mamdani, but he will campaign with Cuomo, saying he will go house by house to get his message out, making sure Cuomo is elected in November. Errol.
What was the reaction on the street over there in the Carver House?
Actually quite interesting. It really drew a crowd. People pulled out their cell phones. You saw they wanted to pose with pictures. A few Mamdani supporters tried to crash it, but generally people wanted to hear what he had to say. They liked the mayor. I spoke with one man. One man gave me an interesting reason why he's considering voting for Cuomo. He said Mamdani criticized Barack Obama and didn't support Kamala Harris in 2024. And to him, that was like disrespect to the Democratic Party. So that was something that weighed on him when I was speaking to him after the rally.
Okay, let me bring in our Kelly Mena, who covers the Adams administration, for some more analysis. Good evening. What do you make of the timing of all of this?
You know, Errol, not a surprise. I think everybody saw this coming. It seemed like it was in the crystal ball for the mayor to support Cuomo's campaign, especially after Cuomo last night raced to Madison Square Garden to be courtside by the mayor's side for that Knicks game, so he could have that picture moment of them being together, I guess, in brotherhood, supporting one of New York's teams. You know, it's also interesting because it seems like he's hoping to solidify maybe that black voter base that the mayor does so well with, that he was able to do well with when he ran for mayor 4 years ago. So this is an interesting combination. I don't think I ever expected them to stand side by side after him calling him a snake and a liar and a spoiled brat. But stranger things have happened in New York City politics.
Indeed.
They were even matching today, which I found to be interesting.
When he used the word gentrifier and called Mamdani king of the gentrifiers, it sounds like code for something else. What is he really getting at there?
I think that's code for these younger, not people of color, people that have just moved in and are pushing those older New Yorkers, senior New Yorkers out. You know, the mayor has made a big deal about this affordability issue, pinning it as a age, a generational divide, a class divide, and at times even a race divide. And this idea that Mamdani is bringing this new wave of people that don't understand the actual issues in certain neighborhoods, don't understand actual New Yorkers because they've only been here for a while. I think that is the divisiveness and where in the discussion that they're going towards.
Yes, I get the impression that somebody who's here, who's a working professional, trying to make their rent and has been here, quote, only 5 or 10 years, to be called names by the mayor of New York City is not necessarily going to endear them to any politician.
No, and I don't think this is any kind of kumbaya moment. The mayor is really trying to make a stark divide here. As Kelly mentioned, they're trying to get the older New Yorkers, the committed Democrats, people who know the area and understand the trade-offs and the way power is built. So on the issue, for example, of let's say, you know, the criticism that Mamdani's policies would chase capital, business people out of the city. Well, they provide the tax revenue that pay for social services that people rely on in East Harlem. That's one. So, or Rikers Island, Mamdani says he wants to reduce the jail population. And to Adams, that means letting people out on Rikers who have been in and out of the jail system and who commit crimes that really do affect people in neighborhoods like East Harlem, and that there's a trade-off here. It's not that everyone lives in Park Slope, that, you know, neighborhoods like that really do take public safety seriously.
And of course, the timing is everything here, right? So whatever it is they're trying to put together as this new alliance and hit the streets, okay, voting hasn't begun, but this is almost literally the last minute, right?
Yeah, I mean, 11th hour and 30 minutes, really. You think about the first votes are going to be cast on Saturday. Cuomo's already picked up the support that the mayor kind of left behind when he left the race. So this is the last-minute opportunity maybe to pick out anybody who's undecided, anybody who might have been on the fence, and make sure that Cuomo is getting squeaking out every last vote, because he's going to need it. He has some serious room that he needs to make up to catch up to the front runners, Zohran Mamdani, and not just Mayor Adams supporters that he needs to get. He needs to get those independent voters and everybody else if he's going to make up the difference.
Okay, thanks very much, Kelly. Thank you, Dan. We are going to take a break now, and when we come back, lawmakers are at a rally in Lower Manhattan. You can see them there on your screen. They're in Lower Manhattan to support State Attorney General Letitia James ahead of her scheduled court appearance. That's taking place tomorrow. We will bring you a live report from that rally. Later on tonight, I'll be joined by my politics panel to talk more about last night's mayoral debate and how each of the candidates performed. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day, with in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Turner. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure. Why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of, they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning.
You're done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Governor Kathy Hochul and Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani are in Lower Manhattan with members of Congress and other Democratic elected officials demonstrating in support of the state attorney general, Letitia James, ahead of her arraignment tomorrow in a Virginia federal courthouse. James is accused of mortgage fraud and falsifying documents. Our State House reporter Bernadette Hogan joins us now from outside Manhattan Federal Court. Good evening, Bern.
Good evening, Errol. And just behind me, as you can see, I'll step out of the way, we have some prominent Democrats, citywide electeds, congressional members, and Governor Kathy Hochul, who are rallying ahead of, as you said, tomorrow's arraignment of State Attorney General Letitia James in a Virginia federal court for allegations including mortgage fraud and falsifying documents. Now, Governor Kathy Hochul spoke, and she said she's actually been communicating with the State Attorney General ahead of this expected arraignment. She said that she's sending her messages of love. But then the governor also had forceful words about President Donald Trump. And to paraphrase, she said that if the President of the United States is willing to go after the top prosecutor in the state of New York, what exactly will he do in respect to the rest of the citizens and dealing with the law? Now, Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani also appeared. And let's take a listen to what he had to say to the crowd earlier.
We know that Donald Trump is coming after her because she did the right thing. She held him to account. She showed that no man and no wannabe king is above that same law.
64 million reasons. Mamdani left quickly after those remarks, but essentially both Zohran Mamdani, Governor Kathy Hochul, and the other elected officials on stage are making the case that the Trump administration are directly targeting Letitia James, and James herself has made this point too, because she ended up taking him to task in court here in New York. And again, they're saying they stand behind Tish James and they support her case tomorrow in Virginia. Errol?
So now, Bernadette, a number of the experts that we've talked to have said that the indictment itself is actually fairly flimsy and could, in fact, get dismissed. Did any of the speakers reference that, or are they talking really just most about the fact of it, the politicized nature of the indictment?
Right, mainly hinging on the politicized nature of it. Letitia James has been a longtime adversary of President Donald Trump. And Tish James herself actually filed, or her attorneys filed, a motion to dismiss the case earlier today. We'll see what she ends up pleading in court, if there's a plea deal tomorrow. But again, the basis of this rally is essentially it's politically motivated, especially considering the top prosecutor in Virginia who is bringing this case is a former Trump White House aide, somebody that is bringing this case forward when other prosecutors did not bring this case to bear. Again, they're bringing this on the merits that it's a political witch hunt against the state attorney general.
Okay, thanks very much, Bernadette. Also today, Andrew Cuomo sparked controversy with comments made during an interview with radio personality Sid Rosenberg, who suggested that Zohran Mamdani would cheer another 9/11-style terrorist attack. Our Bobby Kuza has that and more from the campaign trail. Good evening, Bobby.
Good evening, Errol. And this question of Islamophobia has been raised many other times during the campaign, including the debate last night when Curtis Sliwa on the debate stage said that Zohran Mamdani had supported global jihad, which of course he hasn't. And then Mamdani, in his response said that some of these things are being ascribed to him because he's the first Muslim who is now on the precipice of being elected mayor. So something like that played out again today with comments by Andrew Cuomo really drawing a backlash.
The candidates for mayor had differing views on the second and final general election debate, hosted by New York One Wednesday night.
Last night at the final debate, which I won, clearly.
But the news cycle quickly moved on Thursday, driven in part by a conversation between former Governor Andrew Cuomo and conservative radio host Sid Rosenberg. Cuomo was describing Zohran Mamdani's lack of preparedness for a crisis.
God forbid another 9/11. Can you imagine Mamdani in the seat?
Yeah, I could. He'd be cheering.
It's another problem. But can you imagine that?
Mamdani, asked to respond, described the comments as slander.
We're speaking about a former governor who, in his final moments in public life, is engaging in rhetoric that is not only Islamophobic, not only racist, it's also disgusting.
Governor Kathy Hochul weighed in on social media, writing, quote, "Time to get out of the gutter. Fear-mongering, hate speech, and Islamophobia are beneath New York and everything we stand for as a state." Cuomo later distanced himself from the remark that Mamdani would cheer another 9/11.
The host said whatever the host said. All right, that's the host. Go talk to the host.
But Cuomo also pointed to Mamdani's appearance on a podcast hosted by Hassan Piker, a left-wing figure who has said America deserved 9/11. Mamdani has denounced those comments. Republican Curtis Sliwa, meanwhile, attacked Mamdani on Thursday for his lack of experience and Cuomo for his sexual harassment allegations.
If he would ever be elected as mayor, you'd have to have an HR person constantly in his presence, because if you're under 30, Cuomo's always flirty.
Cuomo claimed a small victory Thursday on Republican turf, winning the endorsement of the Staten Island Advance, which Sliwa promptly dismissed.
You should know the Advance has no impact on Republicans. Its editorial policy skews very Democratic. So if anything, that will just energize my supporters all the more.
And as for those Cuomo remarks about 9/11, it wasn't just Mamdani and Kathy Hochul denouncing him. I mean, on social media, we saw people like Congressman Richie Torres, Congressman Dan Goldman denouncing it. And Goldman, by the way, is not a huge fan of Mamdani. I mean, he has criticized him, for some of these anti-Semitic, supposedly anti-Semitic views. So, we've seen a backlash here. I don't know what's going to come of it. But also, Andrew Cuomo last night on social media posted this AI-generated video, which was quickly taken down, and it had some sort of offensive stereotypes. It was criminals supporting Zohran Mamdani. This was all kind of cartoonish caricatures. But that also drew some criticism, and the campaign said it had been posted in error.
Oh, in error, right. Has it been denied by the campaign, which paid for it?
Well, it was not further explained, what the provenance of this was, except that it was a junior staffer that had been involved.
I see, the interns again.
But because it was pulled down, that was sort of the end of it, and we didn't see this issue really get a lot of traction.
When the governor says stay out of the gutter, I mean, what she's really talking about is this particular program and this particular broadcaster.
Right. I mean, I think these comments today, people felt like went a step too far. And, you heard the clip. I mean, Rosenberg makes this comment, and Cuomo, at the very least, does not disagree with him. I mean, he argues that he was not agreeing with him by saying that's another problem, and then he kind of pivoted to talk about Hassan Piker. But I think people may have interpreted it.
Yeah, look, if you get in the gutter, you're going to get dirty, right? That's I think the real takeaway from all of this. So look, they're on the campaign trail now. They're trying to make their closing arguments. Is this what we can expect more of, do you think, day to day as we get into the voting period?
I mean, I think we've seen for weeks now that Cuomo has really stepped up the attacks on Zohran Mamdani. I mean, we see it every day where he paints him as an extremist. He's inexperienced. We saw it last night in the debate. And to the extent that those arguments may have seemed to have landed last night. And a lot of people, gave Cuomo high marks for last night and thought he was pretty confident in his attacks. Yeah, I think we may see him only ramp those up in this next What are we left now with about a week and a half till Election Day?
Indeed. The time is upon us. Thanks very much, Bobby. Let's take a short break now. When we come back, former New York City Transit President Andy Byford spoke about his plans to transform Penn Station. We'll bring you a full report. Stay with us. This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York 1 for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum.
It's only a game. It's only a little rivalry. It's only a ritual. When I come home late, and a few generations. You're always there. And only Spectrum TV includes all your favorite streaming apps with live TV at no extra cost. It's only a game. It's only everything.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time. And she'd buy the same gifts over and over. Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard. At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan. Early detection gave us time to adapt together. It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York 1 to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first, stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. While he's been back in New York for several months, former New York City Transit President Andy Byford has been focusing on his new job of transforming Penn Station. He took questions from local reporters on his plans yesterday morning, and our Samantha Liebman was there. She has the details in this report.
It was winter 2020 when then New York City Transit President Andy Byford left the agency after reported clashes with then Governor Andrew Cuomo. But he's now happy to be back in New York, armed with that experience.
You learn from your mistakes, right? As I said to someone the other day, I've come back to New York a sneakier, more cunning, more crafty.
He told the New York Building Congress Wednesday he's using that in his new position, special advisor to the Amtrak board for the Penn Station transformation, to get shovels in the ground by late 2027 on orders from the president.
You know, we have someone that's being unduly obstructive or something that's causing me a problem, even within Amtrak. Well, my trump card is the trump card. If necessary, I won't hesitate to say, well, we need to get this done, and you're saying we can't do it. Do you want to tell him, or shall I? Because I'm not telling him.
The Penn project does not have a budget yet, but does include a study on how to maximize capacity at the station once the Gateway Tunnel is completed, which will bring in more trains. So he's not worried by the president's proclamation that the project to build an additional train tunnel under the Hudson River has been terminated.
I'm not unduly fazed by the current standoff. I think there's a lot of politics there. Let's see how it plays out.
Byford does have ideas for the station, citing what the MTA did in renovating the LIRR concourse, which he says won't be touched.
What the MTA did in widening the corridor and elevating the ceiling and providing, much better retail offer, much easier to clean surfaces, just a better customer product, that's got to be a template for how it should be done in the future.
And despite the politics, he looks back fondly at his 2 years at the MTA.
I loved working for the NTA, and I was super proud to be president of New York City Transit. It's something that will remain with me for the rest of my career. I use the subway every day, and I'm very pleased to see that what we launched as the Fast Forward Plan back in 2018, that does continue.
And he's moving forward fast with Penn Station putting out the solicitation for a master developer on October 31st. A firm will be chosen in May. However, there's no timeline for completion. Samantha Liebman, New York 1.
It is time for a break. Coming up, our reporters analyzed last night's mayoral debate for this week's podcast. We will bring you part of that conversation in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
My time at New York 1 has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Bergman.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month, as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
I'm Chris Jakovic. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is, my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately, in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakovic, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Following the final showdown in the race for mayor last night, our political reporters taped a late-night episode of this week's episode of Off Topic on Politics. Courtney Gross, Ayanna Harry, and Bobby Kuza broke down some of the best moments from the debate and got into how the performances could affect those candidates at the ballot box. Here is part of their conversation.
I thought that Andrew Cuomo had a really strong debate, and he made all the same arguments that he always makes. It's not like as if he discovered some new attack line, but I just felt like he was more confident and kind of sure-footed, and Mamdani just had some bad moments. Like I thought, I mean, the one obviously bad moment was when he was asked about the ballot questions regarding housing and had no answer. I mean, not only did he not take a position, but when Errol first asked him the question, he just completely avoided the question and gave some answer that gave no indication of whether he was for it or against it. And then when Errol followed up, it was clear he wasn't taking a position. And then all of a sudden, everybody ganged up on him. So he had Cuomo,
including the audience,
including the audience, and it was almost like it felt like he was getting heckled by people. And then there was another time where I thought he had a bad moment when Cuomo went after him on this idea of anti-Semitism and, you know, him stoking the fires of anti-Semitism, which he does all the time. But then Sliwa came at him on the same issue, and it just felt like there was these moments where he was under sustained attack and it was kind of unchallenged, and it just really felt like it put him back on his heels. And you know, he came back at Cuomo in the way that he often does, saying, you know, Cuomo has the experience, but look at where it got us, right? And so there was some, you know, there's some back and forth exchanges where I thought Mamdani landed some punches, but all in all, I thought Cuomo did well. I don't know if it's enough to bridge the gap that he's facing in the polls, but I think it went about as well as it could have gone for him.
Yeah, I agree. I would say Andrew Cuomo probably gained the most from the debate, and I thought Curtis Sliwa did really well. Last week, there were a few moments where Curtis Sliwa seemed off his game. He didn't quite seem to understand the questions. He was answering a question that was meant for Andrew Cuomo, and so it was almost a little bit like, is Curtis Sliwa confused? Is this not the right forum for him? But a very different, and I actually asked Curtis about that afterwards, and he said he just couldn't hear the moderators, that he was having a hard time hearing. But tonight I thought Andrew Cuomo looked confident. He looked comfortable. He seemed to be back in his zone. It was like Andrew Cuomo, the governor, kind of that vibe again. And I don't know if Zohran Mamdani, you know, he's been pretty busy recently. It seemed like perhaps he could have benefited maybe from a little bit more rest or a little bit more time to prepare for the debate, but it didn't seem like he looked his, you know, he usually comes off as very smooth and confident and in command in a format like this, and I just didn't get that from Zohran Mamdani tonight.
This is also a visual medium. It's television, right? And obviously one of our partners is WNYC, so there's plenty of people who were just listening to the thing, but obviously we're New York One, so we were watching it, and I think that the command that Andrew Cuomo had of the stage, like you said, it was like the Andrew Cuomo of his governor years. I mean, we were even saying he kind of looked like he looked good. Like he looked like he almost was younger. For some, I know that's impossible, but like it almost looked like that when he walked out there on the stage. And meanwhile, Mamdani he just didn't look that great. I don't know if he just wasn't wearing enough makeup or if he was like, it was too hot in the room. I know this is not the best outtake, but I feel like that kind of visual stuff really matters when it comes to the final moments of this mayoral campaign.
Yeah, one person looks cool, calm, and collected, and another person looks like they're literally under fire.
Yeah.
I thought Cuomo, you know, as he often does, his arguments are a little slippery, right? Like he accuses. I mean, he attacks Mamdani, and he's of course been doing this throughout the campaign, and he's kind of ramped it up in the last couple of months, where he attacks him as, you know, an extremist. He brings up decriminalizing prostitution and how he wants to get rid of all doesn't want to prosecute misdemeanors, and
which isn't true.
Which is not true, and Mamdani, you know,
well, the decriminalized prostitution thing actually is true. He did sponsor some legislation.
Yes, but Cuomo goes to say he wants to legalize prostitution and also let everybody in Rikers Island just go free in 2027.
Right. He said he doesn't want to prosecute misdemeanors. He says he's going to empty the jails, and those things aren't true. And Mamdani did refute them, but later. And it was like, I just felt like he just was sort of unchallenged when he would attack Mamdani. But, you know, again, some of the things that Cuomo says are laughable, like the idea that Mamdani is going to empty Rikers Island. And then Cuomo made this argument that he can't freeze the rent because he doesn't have any control over the Rent Guidelines Board, because it's only the Rent Guidelines Board itself that sets the policy, which is like technically literally true. But of course, the mayor appoints the members. So the mayor, I mean, the mayor does effectively have control. And then there's this one point where they're talking about building housing. And, you know, the vacancy rate in the city is like incredibly low. It's like 1.4%. Which is the reason nobody can find an apartment, and the rents are so high. And Cuomo said, when I left office, the vacancy rate was 4.5% or something. That's because of COVID, and everybody was like fleeing the city. Yeah. So he makes these points that I think are misleading, to say the least. But a lot of them either went unchallenged, or, you know, he just was able to. Like the spot where he talked about Mamdani being inexperienced, he went on. It went on and on and on, and it was like 30 seconds where he just like got to hammer at him, and it felt like Mamdani was just on the ropes the whole time.
And that moment, it's funny because I just wrote down inexperience as the next topic that I wanted to talk about, because thinking about the housing question and how Mamdani refused to answer these ballot questions that are going to be on your ballot. So voters, when you go to vote for early voting starts on Saturday. So when you go to vote, you can flip over your ballot and you're going to have a number of questions about housing in New York City. And these are ballot questions about producing more housing. And they're going to basically, in a nutshell, and we'll talk about them more next week, they will empower the mayor to veto some of the council's decisions on housing developments. And the city council is very much against this because they says it's taking away their power. The Mayor Eric Adams, is very much for it. And it's this big debate in city government, and Mamdani didn't answer the question. And it made him, I think what it showed, his vulnerability of inexperience, that he doesn't want to go out there and or know about the issue. That's my takeaway. It could also be he's trying to play both sides.
I think he's trying to play both sides. And I think that it's going to get him in a little bit of trouble, right? So he knows that these housing proposals ballot proposals are very, very controversial, particularly amongst the city council, the council that he theoretically in a few months might need to rely on to get a lot of his agenda passed. So it seems like he doesn't want to upset them. I don't know. I feel like right now Zohran Mamdani is in a let me do what I can to please as many people as I can moment. And I think, yes, you do make some people happy, but then people then wonder, like, well, who are you and where do you really stand? And that, to me, is most seen in him saying today that he wants to keep Jessica Tisch on as police commissioner. It's like, wait, what? Like you guys seem like you are on the complete opposite when it comes to policing, when it comes to raise the age, when it comes to discovery reform, bail reform, this strategic response group. Like, it seems like you two could not be more different, but now you're saying this is the person that you want to be your police commissioner. So do you really believe in Jessica Tisch and her leadership style? Or are you trying to signal to people that you will hire seasoned professionals to help you lead the city? And so it's kind of, again, to me, it just all raises this question of like, well, where do you really stand? And do you really believe what you really believe? Or are you saying what you think you need to say in order to get elected?
And you can catch the full podcast episode wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on New York One's YouTube channel. It will also air on New York One this Saturday night at 9 p.m., as will the latest episode of my podcast, You Decide. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll talk more about last night's debate with my politics panel. Stay with us.
The next downtown local 6 train to Brooklyn Bridge City Hall will arrive in 2 minutes.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer.
I'm so honored to be a meteorologist here at New York One because as a Brooklyn kid, this is the station that I grew up watching. Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our weather on the ones. Watch the New York One weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
So the one line Mamdani gave about the low rent was killer. I thought that was really good.
Everyone says the same thing they lie all the time. So you just have to see who's the worst or who's the best lie out of them all.
They were very angry towards each other, and it didn't really show a good face.
Mamdani has the biggest vision that I feel out of the other two candidates.
What did you think about Mamdani?
That's the one I feel that doesn't have as much experience, and it kind of showed when he's kind of skirted some of the questions.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. New Yorkers are weighing in on their thoughts following last night's debate for mayor. Joining me now with their perspectives on how the candidate's performance might affect the race, I've got my politics panel. Alyssa Katz is the executive editor of the nonprofit news organization The City, one of our co-sponsors in the debate. And joining us, as he does every week, is New York One political commentator Gerson Barrero. Thank you both for being here. I guess the big obvious question is, who won or lost the debate?
Oof, it is in many ways a draw. I actually think that of the three candidates, that Curtis Sliwa was the one who kind of held his own, in part because he wasn't engaged in the kind of hand-to-hand combat that we saw Cuomo and Mamdani really stuck in. And I think especially for Mamdani, who in the earlier debates had really put forth a very positive message and was able to stay on his own message, and his charisma really came through. Here, he just really seemed like he was having a very hard time taking Cuomo's pummeling, trying to give it back, but not quite landing those blows.
Well, I see that Cuomo probably didn't exist for a lot of people. I think Cuomo won the night, and he won it because Mamdani looked so bad. In my book, this is why Mamdani made a mistake in agreeing to only 2 debates. That's a mistake, and it shows he doesn't have a chance to recoup. Had he had another debate, maybe right here on New York One, which he should reconsider, he could have a chance to actually do it. I think he did some harm last night that is unchecked, and it will not be fixed. The other thing is, I watch, so I don't know how many viewers stood in. I watched from 6:30 pre-coverage till 10 o'clock. I'm one of the viewers that actually went through. I wanted to hear everybody's opinion. My own doesn't count in terms of what the voters will eventually do. I really feel that Cuomo is alive again, and Cuomo, I said it before, I'm going to go on the record that he will be the next mayor, despite of what everybody says. Okay? Well, you know, because I think that people now, we talk, especially in the media class, especially when we sit down at desks or we direct newsrooms, we just go crazy with ourselves. We don't talk to, I've been talking to people out on the street, out in the hallway, even when I check in with the people that are at the security desk. You got to listen to people and what their impression was. I think they should do sorry guys, they should go outside with people on the street, not the experts.
No, you're interesting. There was a lot of security there last night because this was at LaGuardia Community College.
Correct.
So there was the CUNY police, there was the NYPD, and there were the private security details. There was a lot of security there. Those are really interesting people to talk to because they stand and they watch and they absorb everything. And they have to watch it from start to finish. I want to play a little bit of, this is when Andrew Cuomo went after Zohran Mamdani for a lack of experience. I thought this was Cuomo's strongest moment. Let's play that.
And I allocated more funding for housing than any governor in the history of the state of New York. All right? I did things. You have never had a job. You've never accomplished anything. There's no reason to believe you have any merit or qualification for 8.5 million lives.
Is that the case Cuomo should have been making all along?
Yes, but he also left himself vulnerable because what you didn't play just there is how Mamdani responded, which I think didn't land quite as hard as he would have wished, but it was an important point, which is that, he said, well, we do know your record and experience doesn't really work in your favor because your record includes, taking a book contract during the COVID crisis. Mamdani also, in a separate moment, when given the question against Cuomo, noted that one of his sexual harassment victims, Charlotte Bennett, was in the audience and that Cuomo's lawyers had
alleged sexual harassment.
That Cuomo's lawyers had demanded her gynecological records and so on. And I think that, he did it kind of ended up being a draw on that point. And I do think that Cuomo's measures of experience kind of got, I think Mamdani did succeed in kind of diverting and diffusing that message. It couldn't come across because Cuomo was on the defensive.
It's interesting. I think each candidate we gave them 10 tickets. And I believe Karen Hinton, who was another accuser, and Charlotte, if those were both there, that he used 2 of his 10 tickets to bring them there. But I was, struck by at some point, if somebody says you don't have enough experience and you turn around and say, well, you have experience and you're no good, or you screwed things up, that's not really an answer.
No,
I
it
wanted
isn't.
to hear him say, I did foreclosure prevention counseling, which is a meaningful job.
Right.
We stop people from losing their homes. I'd like to hear a little bit more of that.
Well, in addition, by the way, Karen Hinton goes all the way back to HUD, to the HUD years, and she could have done more of that. I did not see, in terms of the spin room, I don't listen to spin rooms. I just want to get my impression of other people. But I think that misusing that, and again, here's a 34-year-old talking about a 67-year-old. You don't know what your career is going to look like. You will make mistakes. If you govern enough years, nobody's perfect. Mike Bloomberg did it, and I thought that he was the best reformer of mayors we've had. He made a lot of mistakes. People make mistakes. We're human. We make mistakes in newsrooms. We select the wrong people. We assign the wrong. We get it wrong in some stories. We got to correct them. Some of us take positions, and sometimes we're wrong. So I think that having this thing and then coming up with something that he really wasn't paying attention to, the allegations, and by the way, I'm one of the first journalists, or whatever you want to call me, that called for his resignation before it was popular, 6 weeks before, and also the attacks on Tish James. But I've had a chance to realize that even when he dies in the New York Times obituary, this will be the first thing. Everything else will be like second or third, and I don't think that's fair.
I do want to note that in the previous debate, Mamdani did talk about, like, going on a hunger strike and getting, taxi workers a better deal who were in debt. So he does have that record, and I think part of what happened last night, and this is in part your moderation, it was, it's very aggressive, appropriately aggressive moderation on the issues, and you, of course, followed up to really especially pin Mamdani down where he was being evasive. And I think it just meant, again, like that he was just, his whole campaign has been premised on him telling his story on his terms, and last night he did not have a chance to do that. And I think it really changed the picture.
All right, stand by. We're going to take a short break. We've got more to talk about with this panel. We'll do that in 2 minutes. Stay with us. Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 on Spectrum News New York 1. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Florist Fire Design House. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. Spectrum helps me stay online. I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. Without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
Get up to 4 months free when you bundle award-winning internet. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
We're back inside City Hall, and I'm once again joined by my politics panel, Alyssa Katz of the nonprofit newsroom The City, and New York One political commentator Herson Barrero. I want to play back that part where Zohran Mamdani refused to answer where he stands on those housing ballot measures. They're intended to transfer power away from the city council to more to the mayor and the council speaker and the borough presidents to make sure more housing gets built more quickly. This is what it looked like.
I'm appreciative that those measures will be on the ballot and that New Yorkers will be able to cast their votes for them. I know that we desperately need to build more housing in this city, and I also know that the jobs we create in the building of that housing should be good jobs as well.
What a political answer. What is your opinion, Zohran?
Yes or no?
Come on.
Yes or no?
What is your opinion? Yes or no, Zohran?
Truth.
Don't be a politician here.
I got it. They're pointing out what I was about to, which is that you didn't answer the question.
No, I think on the stage you can see two people appealing for the Republican Party's votes and myself.
Answer the question. Answer the question for once.
Well, in the end, he never gave us an answer. He said he has not taken a position on it.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible moment and a very important one. And Errol, thank you for really pressing that question. And to break this down really quickly, you know, the tension here, right, is that the proposals would fast-track affordable housing, but that city council members and very crucially labor unions that have endorsed Mamdani are very heavily opposed, are campaigning against them. And specifically because it would take away their bargaining power that they really use by basically threatening to get the projects killed or changed significantly. And it was really telling to me that Mamdani declined to answer that question. We're about to start early voting on Saturday because it's basically saying that, you know, well, more affordable housing, better terms for labor, that this is not a decision he is prepared to make. And I think it's a very strong kind of tell on his leadership that he wants the job, but he's not prepared to sort of say how he'd make such a key decision. I think it's a really important
Big blunder, and they just taking too much for granted. But I'm going to say this, and I mean it, and whoever gets offended, I have said here before that the media has been very light in scrutinizing what Mamdani's about. And nothing against the young man. He's a 34-year-old with a lot of promise, who surprised a lot of people. He kicked the ass of a major politician. Cuomo, regardless of whether he's he's a bully, but he knows what he's doing. And I got to tell you, I think that was crucial and very negative. If people were looking not only at the young, a 34-year-old, the inexperience showed, it was like a guy, whoa, I'm the champion, I'm the leader, but boom, when you get hit in the face, he doesn't know what to do. And he showed that, and I think that most New Yorkers, average New Yorkers, not us, the experts, so-called experts, that really, really is a telling sign. You had somebody in a place, one of our colleagues was there in a bar and he's talking to people. I saw how the shift came after the debate, and I think they didn't reveal who they were going for, but they said enough to say, okay, this guy, because you want him to do well. You want him to know he can't have all this knowledge that we pretend that an Andrew Cuomo has. But then again, he doesn't have the baggage. So look, people are going to have to make a decision. And they usually do, in their infinite wisdom or stupidity, that will decide the next mayor.
Okay. I don't want to miss out on our friend Curtis Sliwa. Here is a portion from his opening statement that I thought was especially strong. Let's listen to that.
It's us versus the insiders and the billionaires. It's us versus Cuomo. It's us versus Zohran. This is a campaign not about power. This is a campaign about you, the people. And I know many of you hardworking New Yorkers, you tell me you've been pushed aside, you've been silenced. These are the people that have all the money, all the connections. They've made their backroom deals, but we have something more.
That's, you know, I've known Curtis for almost 30 years. We worked here for 13 years on doing a segment. And I got to tell you, it broke my heart when he spoke about Anthony Chester as a parent. It just, you know, because I know Anthony Chester, as you know him as a kid, with some of the learning problems. And I'm sorry I'm getting emotional, but, you know, you don't mess with anybody's son. Yeah, and then his two kids with Melinda Katz, who I know. Melinda is a wonderful person, excellent mother. You don't mess with that. And I think that really got to me before, and of course, the courageous thing that he did. You know how many people in our business go and quit on a job on principle? Zero.
Yeah. No, he went on WABC radio and basically fired himself. Basically said, "I'm never coming back." You know.
And this was specifically, you know, because of John Catsimatidis and other Republicans trying to get him to quit the race, even though he's a nominee of the Republican Party and supported by the counties. And I do have to say that those opening remarks were basically, I thought it was a very gracious and kind of understated way of saying, I am here, you're not going to mess with me, I'm a serious candidate, and I'm going to hold my own. And I think it really got people's attention as an opening statement. I thought it was very powerful.
I mean, and of course, you have to point out that commercial radio, in some ways, is almost like pro wrestling, right? Like this season's villain could be next season's hero. So I wouldn't necessarily count him out as a voice on WABC. He'll bring, if anything, a bigger audience if he is successful, you know, however you want to define that, in making it through to the end of this campaign.
But I think it's not only John Catsimatidis. I think it's Sid Rosenberg, who calls himself a friend after 6 years. It was really treated him poorly, and he had no business. Again, as you say, he is the nominee of the Republican Party, which I really believe nobody has a right, especially Andrew Cuomo or any billionaire, to say because they're afraid of the socialists that he's got to get out.
I don't know how many stupid, bigoted comments. I don't know how many times a guy has to get fired from his radio job before people realize maybe this isn't the best place to have a conversation.
Right.
Because you'll get swept up into the garbage that comes out from certain kinds of broadcasters over and over and over again for decades, Hurston, for decades.
He's been offending people, and Sid Rosenberg,
for decades.
He got Cuomo into trouble today.
Of course he did. Of course he did. Why they go on that?
I don't know what
Catsimatidis
has him on the air.
Good luck, guys. You want to try your luck over there? Good luck. We're here to have a serious conversation anytime you're ready. Thanks so much for coming by. Great talking with the both of you. That is going to do it for tonight's show. Be sure to join us tomorrow night when I will be hosting another debate. That's the race for Manhattan District Attorney. The candidates are Alvin Bragg, Maud Marin, and Diana Florence. They'll all be right here to face off on New York 1 starting at 7 p.m. Until then, thanks for watching and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall.
That's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning.
You've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on 1.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Florist Fire Design House. We are a full production wedding and event company that focuses on florals. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They were here the same day, had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. And if I'm contacting a merchant via email or placing an order online, without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
One more row.
Spectrum is reliable, they're committed, they're fast, and they really take care of me as a business owner. Last year, when the really bad hurricane came through, our internet stayed the entire time. One of the businesses down the street, she was like, wait a minute, how are you still online? And I was like, Spectrum, baby. You gotta get Spectrum.
Get award-winning internet for your business. Up to 4 months free when bundled. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York 1 for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum.
New York's historic Village Halloween Parade returns for its 52nd celebration. Don't miss New York 1's